this is the Jeff Cowan coming to you from thejeffcowan.com with my weekly podcast entitled Success in Professional Sales and Life in General. Welcome back, everybody. I've got a great message for you, and I've been listening to it, and you've made it loud and clear. You like it when I'm talking about closing, and you like it when I give you closes, so I am going to give you a very, very easy close to use and one that will get you a high percentages of yeses. Now, the problem with the two closes, because actually two closes I'm going to give you, and we're going to show you how it's the same close. But the problem with these closes is one point in time in history, they used to be two of the most popular closes that you would hear salespeople use on a routine basis. And the reason they were so popular is because they were so successful. They got so many yeses. But here in a second, you're going to find out that almost nobody uses these closes anymore because of the nature of the close itself and what it's called. These closes are simply referred to as the Ben Franklin close or the Ike Eisenhower close. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how both of these closes work, and I'm going to share with you then why I believe people don't use them anymore. But just because they don't use them anymore, and the reason they don't use them anymore, doesn't mean we can't change it up a little bit and still use them today very successfully. So here's the thing. This close, let's start with the Ben Franklin. Ben Franklin close would go like this. The customer, when you get down to the end of your presentation, you look at your client, you say, so what do you think? Let's go ahead and move forward on this. You want to? And the customer scratches their head or something like that and says, you know what? I think I just want to think about it. Well, the problem with I just want to think about it, what is it they want to think about? Okay? So let's move them along. Let's get them to the yes. Let's get them stop thinking about it. Let's get a decision right now. So close you would use back in the day would be one of the closes would be the Ben Franklin close, and here's how it went. You know, Mr. Customer, when you say you want to think about it, it takes me back to a time in early America when Ben Franklin walked the earth. You know, Ben Franklin was one of the most important founding fathers, was a great inventor, and many feel without Ben Franklin, there wouldn't be a United States of America today, and that's why one of the many, many reasons he's on the $100 bill today. Ben Franklin, being a wise old man, always wanted to make sure that when he was making decisions, because he was always asked to make a lot of decisions, that he was making the right decision. When he didn't know which way to go, he would simply do this. He would simply pull out a piece of paper, a blank piece of paper, and draw a line down the center. At the top on the left side, he would simply put yes, and on the top on the right side, he'd simply write the word no. Then what he would do is he would start on the left side and list all the reasons why this was a great idea. Once he got through with that side, he'd go to the right side of the page where it said no at the top and list all the reasons why it was a bad idea. Then he'd simply add the two columns up, and whichever one had more in it, if there was more yeses versus no, or there was more no's versus yeses, the decision was made for him. I say what we should do here today is the very same thing. I mean, Ben was so wise, why not use it here as well? So I got a blank piece of paper. I'm going to draw a line down the middle. I put yes over here, and I put no over here. Now, time out. Then here's what you do next as a salesperson. You help them get started under the yeses. So under the yeses, I'll just help you get started. I know you said you liked this because it was blue. I know you said you liked it because you could get immediate delivery. I know you said you liked it because it solved the three most important benefits. And then what else do you like about it, Mr. Customer? And you let them add some things. And if they stall a little bit, then you continue to add things that you wrote down in your notes as you were making your presentation that you know they liked about the product. Once you get through with all the yeses, then you simply add them up. Mr. Customer, it looks like we got 10, 11, 12 reasons for yeses. Now let's talk about the reasons why you wouldn't want to move forward. And then you simply hand them the piece of paper and the pen, and you shut up. Now, they might write down one or two. I think I've had the most I've ever seen somebody write down is 3. And then once they write them down, they say that's really, I guess that right there would be the only reasons why we wouldn't want to move forward. Then you take the piece of paper back and you say, well, Mr. Customer, let's do what Ben did and add them up. Like I said over here a second ago, we got 12 reasons why we should and only 3 why we shouldn't. I think the answer is obvious, and we should do what old Ben would do in this situation and just move forward, don't you? Now, with that right there, you'll be stunned at the number of people go, yeah, I guess it's pretty obvious. Why not? And you've got the sale. But even if they say, well, you know, these 3 things I wrote down over here, they're pretty important, what do you have that you didn't have just a few minutes ago? You got the 1, 2, or 3 objections that now you can handle, now you can address, and once you solve those, you've got the sale. That's the reason this was such a popular close, and this is the reason it was so successful. I'm talking about an extremely high closing ratio here. All right, now, let's talk about, before I explain to you why I think people don't use this today, let's talk about the Ike Eisenhower close. Now, it's essentially the same close, so I'm not going to go through the whole thing with you again, but I'm going to go over the opening, okay? So it'd be the same thing. You ask the customer if they want to buy it. They say they want to think about it. Here's the Ike Eisenhower close. You know, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, when you say you want to think about it, it always takes me back to history and a point in time when I remember General Ike Eisenhower and or President Eisenhower. President Eisenhower was one of America's leading authorities when it came to making decisions and making the right decisions, not only in the war, but later when he came home to be a two-term president. And when you read his biographies, you find out that the way he made decisions is phenomenal because it was so simple. Ike always knew that the best way to move forward is make sure you're making more right decisions versus wrong decisions. So what he would do is just very simply is this. He would pull out a piece of paper, a blank piece of paper, draw a line down the middle. On the top of the left-hand column, he would put yes, and on the top of the right-hand column, he would put the word no. Then he would move forward by listing all the reasons why he should move forward with this decision on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side where it said no, list all the reasons why he shouldn't. Once he got through making the two lists, he simply added the two columns up, and whatever one had more in it, his decision was made for him. So you can see it's essentially the same thing, and you would do the same thing. You'd help the customer with the yeses, let them do the nos, and then say, let's do what old Ike would do, what old Ike Eisenhower would do. It looks like the decision's obvious, let's move ahead. And again, you'll be surprised how many people would move ahead. And even if they didn't, if they said, well, you know, I do have these two things written down over here, you now have the objections in writing, you handle those, you've got the sale. So again, both of those closes, the same close, we're just using a different American history figure, if you will, very effective, but people stopped using them. Why? They stopped using them because today, if you say Ben Franklin, it's stunning to me how many people don't know who he is. When you say Ike Eisenhower, it's even more surprising to me how many people don't know who he is. I mean, he won World War II in the European theater. He was in charge of the Allies. Maybe he was a two-term president that led us through the 50s, I mean, to some of the most prosperous times the United States of America ever had, and people simply don't remember them, and those who do don't like to use those names because they think that it makes them feel old. As a side note here, if you want to know how uninformed Americans are, you ever in a bar and want to get a free drink, bet somebody this. If you can tell me the name of the president on the back of the $100 bill, I'll buy you a drink. But if you get it wrong, you have to buy me a drink. And of course, they're going to say, that's easy, it's Ben Franklin. And then you're going to say, nope, Ben Franklin was never president of the United States of America. I'll take a cold Bud or whatever it is that you drink. All right, now back to this. So this close was effective, and it's one that I still use today, and it's still as effective as it ever was. So how can we change it up and use it today so it doesn't make it sound old, and how can we freshen it up to make it sound like it's more relevant than Ben Franklin and Ike Eisenhower? Simple. Do this. The next time your customer tells you that they want to think about it and you want to use this close, say this. You know, Mr. Customer, when you say you want to think about it, it takes me back to all the books I've read over the last 15 or 20 years. I don't know if you know this about me or not, but I read all the time. I read at least one book a month, and many times try to get that up to one book a week. I just love reading. My two favorite topics to read is I love to read biographies about successful people, and I like to read business books about businesses that are successful. And when you do that, Mr. Customer, what you find is there's a lot of commonalities between these personalities and a lot of commonalities between these successful companies. They follow a template. What I've noticed over time is one of the things that both the successful person and successful business does is they make more right decisions, many more right decisions than they do wrong decisions. And what's even more interesting to me is how simplistic it is, how they come to the conclusion on which decisions to make in what direction. And I want to share that with you now because it may help us out here today. Here's what I found. A lot of these successful people and these successful businesses, what they do when they have to make a major decision like you're looking at here today, is they simply pull out a piece of paper. Now this is crazy with today's technology, right? But they just simply pull out a piece of paper, they draw a blank piece of paper, they draw a line down the middle, and on the left-hand side at the top of the column, they put the word yes. On the right-hand column at the top, they put no. And they just simply, if it's an individual, they just write down all the reasons why they should under the yeses and all the reasons why they shouldn't under the no's. If it's a company, they might have a board meeting. They might maybe several people listing all the yeses and all the no's. Either way, once they fill out the piece of paper, they simply add up both columns, and whichever one has more in it, the decision's already made for them. So let's do the same thing that these successful business people do and these successful companies do and make a list right now. And then you simply would do the same thing I said before. Help your customer with the yeses by listing the many things they said they liked about the product, asking them occasionally to add to it, and if they're really interested, they'll start giving you things they like. And they start giving you things they like, they're over halfway there to buying it. And then again, when it comes to the no side, you just ask them and you don't add anything to it. What would we want to put under the no that would keep you from getting this today? And then once they write them down, the one or two or three, or you write them down for them, it's okay if you write it down for them, by the way, just don't give them any of the no's. Then you just simply add up the two columns and say, it looks like we've got 15 yeses, we've got 2 no's, so Why don't we follow in the footsteps of these most successful people in these biographies I've read about, and why not follow in the footsteps of these most successful companies that I've read about, and look at this and realize the decisions made for us. So let's go ahead and move forward. Again, you'll be stunned how many people, because by that time you've just gone over the benefits and all the reasons why they should. You got them all excited about it. Again, got to refocus. You're going to be stunned how many people just say yes on that. And the ones who say no, again, repeating myself, you have the reasons, you have the objections on why they're not moving forward. And when you get an objection, you can handle it, you can get the sale. But when they look at you and say, I want to think about it, you have nothing. So here's my piece of advice. Let's take these two old closes, the Ben Franklin close and the Ike Eisenhower close, let's bring them back to life, let's breathe new life into them as I have done, and use more current celebrities, if you will, and more current companies in their place. And the best way to say it is just simply, I read a lot of biographies, and what I find out is the commonalities are these successful people is the way they make decisions. I read a lot of business books, and these successful businesses, there's a lot of commonalities, and the way they make their decisions is one of the most simplistic ways I've ever seen. Let's follow in the footsteps of these most successful people and companies, and let's see if we can get the decision made for you today. It's a great close. Use it. You're going to love it because it's going to make you a lot of money. Hey, my name is The Jeff Cowan. I'm coming to you from thejeffcowan.com, and I'll be back next week with another message. But in the meantime, I want you to go find as many customers as you can, and I want you to get them as excited as you can about your products. I want you to close them on your products. I want you to collect that money, collect that commission, and live the life you deserve. Because between now and next week, that is exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to show everybody my product, get them excited about it, and I'm going to close them. I'm going to take the commission and continue to live the lifestyle I have, because I have a great life. I enjoy it, and you will too. Come on, let's step up the pump and get this done. This is The Jeff Cowan signing out for this week. See you next week. Take care.